Death Stranding released November of 2019. It was developed by Kojima Productions and it was distributed by Sony Productions. It was written, created, and directed entirely on Hideo Kojima and his vision for the game. So, the thing is, the number one thing I have to say, first and foremost, the biggest question everybody always has about this game. What is this game? Honestly, I can't even tell you. This is the most random, no, this is the most obnoxiously random game I have ever played. Death Stranding, okay? It is completely random. There's so much blatant advertising in it. There's so much blatant chaotic randomness. The gameplay itself is random. It's just random. It's a random-ass game. With that being said, Death Stranding is also Hideo Kojima's baby when it comes to originality. Death Stranding is hands down one of, if not the most original and uniquely complex games I have ever experienced. Don't get me wrong, I understand why critics are completely divisive against this game. It's true, you will either love it or you'll hate it. Personally, I love Death Stranding, but I'm not going to say it's the greatest game, most perfect game out there, because it's not. But is it a great game? Hell yes. Death Stranding, its story is random and chaotic, and the thing about it is, I'll try to explain it. So the main plot is in a world where it's kind of a post-apocalyptic world. Messengers, like mailmen, but couriers. They are the pivotal parts and roles that play in the world of Death Stranding. They pick up a package. They need to go from point A to point B. And if you take away all of the characters in the game story, that's basically what this game is. It's a courier simulator, 100%. And honestly, in my personal opinion, this is hands down one of the greatest games pertaining to attention to detail. You scale large snowed up mountains. You can drive motorcycles. You can drive trucks and whatnot up and over mountains and everything. And you can even use ladders, climbing anchors. You can use a vast array of technological devices to be able to go from point A to point B. And the world itself is extremely diverse. There are so many colorful, differently designed regions, areas, locations. Everything about Death Stranding is diverse. Everything. Also, as pertaining to the story and the direction behind the story, this is also Hideo Kojima's most balanced game between story and gameplay. Okay, Hideo Kojima, who's known for the Metal Gear Solid series, not Metal Gear Survive. Let's not get that mixed up. Not Metal Gear Survive. But Hideo Kojima made all of the Metal Gear Solid games except Survive, and take Metal Gear Solid 4 for example. I would say it's a 15-20 hour game, and how much gameplay is in it? I would probably say 3 to 4 hours. Everything else is nothing but cutscene. In Death Stranding, I would definitely say Death Stranding's ratio on gameplay and storytelling is 50-50, if not leans more towards the gameplay aspect, up until the very end. But the last 3 or 4 hours of Death Stranding, it was focused on the story a lot more with cutscenes and whatnot, but they were trying to get rid of all of the loose ends. They were trying to tell a very individual, independent, cohesive solo story. And I think they achieved that very well in Death Stranding. Maybe we'll never have a sequel. And honestly, with how Death Stranding was made, I would be okay with that. Death Stranding is a near perfect game. Hideo Kojima to this day has yet to disappoint me. I loved Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I will admit, by the very end of it, it did feel a little unbalanced and a little uneven and a little unfinished, but, which, I mean, it was unfinished, but you can't fault him or the game for that per se. That was Konami. That was the distributor. They were basically being jerks to Hideo Kojima. But yeah, Death Stranding, the gameplay is extremely unique, and it's so enthralling. The attention to detail in the gameplay of Death Stranding is even more vast than in the Phantom Pain. Like I said, you play as Sam Bridges, who is a porter, a courier in real life is what we would call them, and you have to transport a package from point A to point B. And the best part about this game lies in the gameplay. Depending on what the package is, the size of it, the weight, everything. It could be a living body on your back, and literally there are a couple missions where you have to transport a living body from point A to point B. But otherwise it goes from a living body to you're delivering a pizza, and even the pizza, the attention to detail is amazing. They flat out tell you before you start the mission, when you accept it, before you actually start it, that it's a pizza. You have to stand upright. You can't really get in water. You can't, do a front or back flip. You can't do anything. It's a pizza. You have to be on a motorcycle or run or whatever. You can't crush it. You can't have it on your hip, on its side. It's a pizza. As for the living bodies and things that are heavy in that nature, it always has to be on your back. Why? Because, when something's on your back, you use your legs. Legs are the strongest part of your body, and they teach you that in health. Another positive, I have to say, it's a very lengthy and focused story, especially by the end of it. It's 70 missions in the story alone, and the direction is phenomenal. I do have some criticisms towards the direction and the storytelling and the narrative, but I'm going to wait until my negative portion of this. But otherwise, though, the story is phenomenal. Just like in the gameplay aspect itself, the story is basically from point A at the beginning to point B at the end, and it ties everything up nice and neatly. One of the biggest, strongest parts of this game, Death Stranding, is the cast of characters. Every single character, including Norman Reedus' performance and his character Sam Bridges. I will admit, Sam Bridges was probably the weakest character in all of the cast, but having the likes of Troy Baker of The Last of Us and Mads Mikkelsen from Hannibal, hell, even Conan O'Brien from TV is in this game. Every single character and every single actor and actress that portrayed these characters, everything about the characters, 100%. I have no negative thing to say about anything pertaining to the characters. The environment, and like I said, the diversity of the regions, and the fact that the map itself is literally the United States of America, but they called it the UCA in the game, is astounding. The detail in the environment, the aesthetics in the map, in the regions themselves, in the game of Death Stranding, the aesthetics, the atmosphere, the environments. Death Stranding is perfect as a game. Alright, my negative criticisms. Mediocre combat. This is more so a stealth-based game because you're a courier. It's not an action game. It's not an action epic at all. You're supposed to take a pizza from point A to point B. Why would you get in a shootout with somebody? And when you do, the combat is kind of dissatisfying, and it does kind of lack in that region. But like I said, though, the combat, it's not an action epic. It's not focused on fights or shooting scenes or anything like that. I will admit that the storytelling definitely does have some of its own problems persisting in the first act. Not even the whole first act, but I would say the first 2 hours. It has a rough first act in this game. It doesn't really show you how to play the game that much, and the story isn't really going anywhere yet per se. So honestly, it feels really unfocused at first. But if you stick with it, give it 5 to 10 missions in to the story, and you'll be hooked. Seriously, I can understand the negative criticisms against this game, but Death Stranding as a whole, as a game, is amazing. I do have to say, like I said earlier, they do shove blatant advertising in your face. It's not terrible, it's not constant, it's not persistent or anything. Every time you're in a private room, you know, you can drink monsters to give yourself extra stamina and to regain it back. But it's kind of like when you're in the private room and you see the monsters, it's not that they shove it in your face, it's more so the camera angle. They're shoving it in your face, but they're trying to do it in an artistic way so that it's not noticed. But I'm sorry, but it's even more noticeable doing it that way. Otherwise, that's my opinion on Death Stranding. Death Stranding as a whole is one of Hideo Kojima's greatest games ever, in my opinion. And it's not perfect. Like I said, it has some criticisms and gripes from me, but as a whole, this is a very, very intricate, complex, random, and very diverse game that pays very much, very wholeheartedly attention to detail. Death Stranding is a 9 out of 10. Thank you.